Thank you for joining me for the next series in our energy leadership videos. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, creative leadership. And I'm pretty sure I say that every piece of content and educational training I create is my favorite, but that is genuinely true. Every time I delve deeper into these topics and concepts, it inspires me and reminds me how powerful this material is. Creative leadership is almost redundant. Leaders are stepping into places that no one else has been, that they themselves have most likely been, and they literally need to create the energy, design and curate and craft the energy very specifically to ensure that everybody wins, everyone's successful. When we think about creativity as a practice, some of us may or may not really identify with that. We might not have thought of ourselves as creatives, or we might not think that we work in creative spaces. Let me tell you, as someone who owns a fractional accounting firm, you can be a creative in a lot of different ways. And sometimes it's the systems within which you work. Sometimes it's the business solutions that you come up with. I consider myself incredibly creative, and you don't see me making art. So creativity gets to behold the eye of the beholder. How does that saying work? It is up to the eye of the beholder, but ultimately you get to decide, are you trying something new? Are you trailblazing? Are you rebelling against existing systems? Are you the black sheep? And I don't mean that as are you marginalized or a misfit? You might be. But oftentimes the people that I work with and the people that are drawn to this material, they do things differently. They think differently, and that makes you inherently creative. Now, what is the energy of creativity? We can get technical with it and refer back to level 6. But what I really want to do today and what I want to focus on is the embodiment, the experience, the physical sensation of creation, of creativity. And I know where your mind went there, and get it out of the gutter. Let's talk about creativity as an energy that we can call on when we need, anytime, to be able to take our experience and our success to completely new places. So first and foremost, intuition can get mixed up in this concept of creativity. However, when you think about ideas, when you think about inspiration, when you think about trying something new, being willing to experiment, there's a feeling to it. And authors like Elizabeth Gilbert talk about it in The Big Magic. We've got a lot of mindset coaches, productivity coaches, success coaches, consultants, people who are creating these exponential results that are able to really quantum leap to that desired reality that we may feel is really far away and pull in maybe not the entire experience, but threads that almost act like tethers so that we can continue moving and pulling ourselves towards, or pulling that thing that which we desire towards ourselves. So I like to describe level 6 energy as, let me give you a scenario here. So you wake up a little bit late and you realize you have a really important meeting. Maybe you're heading to it, maybe you're getting ready for a Zoom, but you're already feeling rushed. This isn't how you wanted it to go. You wanted to prepare, you wanted to get outside, you wanted to eat your favorite breakfast, but instead you open the fridge and you realize there's no milk. So you're not going to be able to have your coffee, or maybe you've run out of your favorite tea. Regardless, you're feeling rushed. You're feeling like you don't have the tools that you need to be successful, and suddenly you're going to have to perform. Now, as you're getting ready, you put on some music and your favorite song comes on. So you start thinking, okay, maybe I've got this, like the music's playing, I'm grooving, we're going to get there. Again, perhaps you're commuting, perhaps you're getting things ready, but you open up your computer and in fact, you've already got the Zoom ready, or you hop into your car and you get to the first stoplight and it goes green. And you start to think, okay, well, maybe this isn't going to go as bad as I thought. Maybe I'm going to have some time to prepare. And then you get that message where the person that you're meeting tells you they're running 15 minutes late. And you're like, yes, now I have this extra magical 15 minutes. And you start to go through your exercises. You start to go through your preparation. You get all of your ideas together and everything just starts flowing. The meeting begins and the person just immediately starts with hard questions, but you've had the time to prepare. You're really excited about this and you're feeling very confident. You answer the questions and you're like, holy crap, I really got this. I'm really nailing this. And they start to doubt you and they introduce some objections and you just sail right past them. Perhaps the same questions that might have irritated you or even made you question or doubt yourself, you just don't hear them. They don't hit you the same. That's that level 6 energy. It's when you're cruising through your reality and the same buttons, the same triggers, the same stress points, you don't notice them. You're almost flying above the trials and tribulations or the ebbs and flows of the tides that would normally distract you or potentially even bring you down. Level 6, the number one question that I get after how do we get rid of level 1 and 2 energy is how do we stay in level 6? And again, there are advantages and disadvantages to every level. So it's not about staying in level 6. However, I highly encourage you to gain an understanding of what it's like to cultivate level 6. So I'm going to describe level 6 to me. Level 6 brings me right back to this moment when I was first working at that independent record label that I talked about. It was my first big girl job. And I had finished work. It was a really hard day. Back in those days, I was making 300 cold calls a day to record stores. I was trying to manage sales for a band that not many people had heard of. I had other emerging acts that I was trying to get on sales shelves. There was a lot of outbound energy. And I had stopped past this restaurant right at that hour between seasons that has magically appeared because daylight savings is just introduced. So what was darkness at 6 is now illuminated in light. And where I was living at the time was at the foothill of the Rocky Mountains. And so it was that kind of almost sunset, but not quite. The sun had set behind the mountains. So the sky had gone all different colors of pastel, from purple to pink to orange and lighter. And my friends had not yet arrived. And in fact, the patio was empty because it was again, that kind of magic hour between work and day and evening and out. And I remember it being warm and again, mountain climate. So I had traditionally been wearing lots of layers and it was cold outside. And it was just this kind of magical hour of peace and calm. And I could feel the completion and the satisfaction in my day. And I was also very aware of the unknown, the invitation of the night. I wasn't even sure if I was going to do anything, if I was just going to have a drink and some nachos and go home, or if I was going to have a drink and then go see some music and stay out a little bit later. And it was this moment of complete calm and peace and, importantly, trust. I knew that I had already done everything that I had hoped for that day, and that there was also this potential for things I hadn't even imagined to happen. It was exciting, but calming. It was total creativity. In that moment, I felt like I could do anything. And when I think about it, I tune into my 5 senses. I feel that warmth. I feel the moisture in the air that hadn't been there for the last 6 months. I can smell the mountains and the spring and the sort of wet grass and the flowers and the pollen and the dew. I can think about, I can remember the drink that I ordered and the food that I was going to eat, how that tasted, how rewarding it was, so on and so forth. I can hear the servers setting up. And when I go back to that moment, I literally bring in that level 6 energy. This is what I talk about when I say you always have a conscious choice. We can bring awareness to the experience and then ask ourselves, is this the energy that's going to get me what I want, that's going to get me what I need in this moment? And we can ask that without judgment. When we're experiencing a dominant level 1 or 2, or experiencing someone else who is having a dominant level 1 or 2 moment, we can bring awareness to that and ask, what do I need? What do they need? Am I the right person for them? Am I able to provide for myself in a way that is going to fulfill what I'm asking for? And sometimes the answer is not exactly what we want, right? It feels inconvenient. It feels out of reach. With our level 6, we can step into this space of going, and what? And so, what's the narrative I'm telling myself? What's the perspective? Remember, from level 6, we were able to tap into all of the energetic levels that are below that number. So levels 1 through 5. It's this true understanding and awareness and connection. I talk about level 5 and level 6 with this ability to read the room. You can address the level 1, enable that someone who might feel insecure or unsafe, give them the information or the tools that they need in order to feel okay. Give that level 2 some credit, some power, some acknowledgement, a way that they can feel like they're in charge of their own little space without giving them too much, especially too much energy. Because again, that level 2 feeds, that catabolic energy feeds off itself. Level 3, we're looking at timelines, responsibilities, budgets. Level 6 isn't worried about where each one of these people are or judging where they are. They're just accepting it and acknowledging it, and so on and so forth. And so you can see how when we're able to really tap into these different energies, we are co-creating in real time. I have to create a ton of content and material. I'm sure you have a ton of work that you need to get done in your experience as well. Level 6 allows us to trust it is all going to get done exactly when it needs to. It understands that there are energies that are more or less effective in fulfilling our needs. When we are in a creative process, this energy, some refer to it as the muse. And I know all different types of rituals and practices and disciplines and systems and schedules that can get someone up that energetic ladder so that they're able to perform and create from this place where they are truly in connection and pulling ideas and creation out of the ether and birthing it into the real world. That is the process of creation, and this is the energy of it. So how do you know you're there? Nothing ruffles your feathers. You're not taking things personally. There's not a lot of judgment in your experience. It feels like that flow. So again, I encourage you to figure out, what color are those glasses? What music hosts that experience? What character or archetype plays that role? Or potentially, what experience can you remember that you've had that you can imagine and call in so that you are physically experiencing that level 6 despite everything that might be happening around you? So I know what you're asking. What do I do when everything around me is particularly challenging? We step up that energetic ladder. If you're experiencing a dominant level 1, 2, there is something that you need in that moment. Fulfill that. We can go to level 3, figure out some certainties, some structures, some responsibilities. We go to level 4, we figure out the connection, the purpose in this particular situation. And if we're working with others, we come together with that. We define purpose and values and how we know we're going to be successful before we even get started. From there, you're naturally going to go into, okay, so how do we create a win-win-win? How do we divvy this up? How do we leverage each other's skills or opportunities? Potentially, again, you're working with yourself. How can you set yourself up for success? Maybe you do need to take care of some more basic activities, some less exciting, sexy things so that you can get to the creative space. Maybe getting into a creative space takes work. Hello, that's me. It takes me a good 30 to 45 minutes to get into my level 6 energy, especially when I'm juggling multiple businesses, putting out fires, dealing with family. All of this can potentially distract from the ability to choose this level 6. So again, think about some tools, some experiences, often exercise, getting outside, taking some time to get into creativity, whether you're looking at other artists or other writers, or whether you're Netflix and chilling. The Netflix and chilling can actually be a great way of getting into creative energy. So you always have a choice, and remember that. If you feel like you're stuck in that binary, that's a great cue that you're in level 1, 2. And if creation is the need in that moment, you now have this ladder that you can start to walk up. So notice the resistance, notice the story, notice the narrative, and just identify the energy level. That's going to meet you where you're at and then give you the opportunity to climb. When you discover your rhythm, when you discover the ways that you can set yourself up for success, and when you understand how to court the creative muse, you can call this energy in. Again, everybody is different. You'll hear creatives like Stephen Pressfield, who wrote The Artist's Journey and The War on Art, 2 of my favorite books. I have a podcast episode for those. Please keep an eye out for the You Know Everything Quantum Business Book Club. If you don't want to read it, the TLDR is that he approaches his writing and his creative muse with a hardcore discipline. He sits down at the same time every single day for the same amount of time every single day. He puts on his lucky jacket, his lucky hat. He sits at his old desk in his artist studio, and his entire day revolves around that time. That works beautifully for Stephen. I know other artists that couldn't sit down at the same place at the same time every day to save their dang lives. They have a much more chaotic process. And so what we've done to be able to allow for that is we clear giant chunks of space for them. It's typically deadline oriented. It typically shows up like procrastination, but when you remove the judgment from that and you realize that actually your ability to show up and pump out some magic right before deadline is your superpower and nothing to judge, what you can do is create the space for that creative energy and allow for the flow. You just got to get everything else out of your way. So knowing your flow, knowing your rhythm, knowing how to court this muse and call her in so that she shows up when you need her, that is an exploratory process in and of itself. And it's something that you can absolutely tune into. I work with a lot of different people on this. For some people, it's times of days. For other people, it's days of week. Like I said, it can be like big chunks of time, or maybe it is a very, very repetitive and disciplined practice, or something in between, or a hybrid model of all of that. Figuring out your level 6 energy, how to call it in and how to embody it is going to change your life and your results and your success forever. Lastly, and this is one of the hardest parts when we're in level 6, this is one of the huge disadvantages of level 6. It is incredibly sexy and alluring and intoxicating. We can get lost in level 6. So know your process, know what is upstream from your success. When I get into level 6, I never want to stop. I'm always the last one at the party and I will overexhaust myself. I will overextend myself. I will get so caught up in the flow and the process and the results. I kind of move down to level 4. And then I have this goal that I'm just moving towards without checking in physically. Then I get to level 1 and I am exhausted, I'm burnt out, and I can't call that level 6 back in because I need to experience that level 1 and rest and nurture. So take breaks, schedule them in, give yourself the minimal amount of structure to support you and the way that you work. I find with people who spend a lot of time or have a mastery or a dominant level 6, the biggest disadvantage is this physical disconnection with our world. They can feel a little bit airy-fairy, ungrounded, flaky, disconnected. So give yourself some structures, whatever that might look like for you. Maybe it's a calendar, maybe it's an assistant, maybe it's somebody who truly understands you and supports the way that you work to act like a buffer, like a manager, or an agent, or a partner, or a friend. Maybe it's an auto reply on your email. There are so many different ways you can set up the support that is going to honor the way that you work and allow you to be in this creative energy and in this level 6 experience when you need and when you want to best fulfill everything that you're trying to achieve. So with that, the last component of energy leadership is mastery. So let's talk about that in the next video.